Recording.
All right. So my name is YJ. I go by YJ, but I'm the actual Corporal Leboulch, and I work at the Surrey Domestic Violence Unit at the Surrey Detachment. I'm in charge of 4 constables and 2 victim services workers. One is police-based and the other is community-based, and we work out of the Surrey Detachment. They were quoted last year as having about 12,000 files that the officers attended to for domestic violence. And that could be ranging from just a verbal altercation to homicide. Okay, unfortunately, people don't want to get out of the relationship because they have a lot of attachments to the offender. What I would say is me even making a phone call or just talking to a friend saying this is what the situation is. We do have a victim link. I don't have that phone number on me right now, but basically the victim can call and it's all private, and they can say this is my situation, and you talk to a victim services worker and they can tell you maybe what the best situation is for you if you call the police or so forth. But if you are in danger, definitely call the police, or if there's an assault or an offense that's occurred, definitely call the police. That way that at least if we start an investigation, we can get the help that is out there, and we can also get in contact with our victim police database, victim services, to get the help for, like, say, financial needs or even transition houses or something, so that you or the person can get that help. But without having anything done, the abuse can continue, and in the end it'll escalate, and that's where we get involved. The police normally get involved even at that point, and it's not a good scenario usually. I think it is hard for the males to come forward because it is a bit of an embarrassment that the woman is beating them, but it's still an offense. It's still, they are victims of domestic violence, and it does need to be reported. And if this female or male, it doesn't matter who the victim is or who the offender is. They're all people, and they need to be treated like people, and they can't be in a situation where they're being violently affected. So male or female, I know in the past it's basically been that the woman is the one who is the victim, and most often it is. Most unfortunately it is. But society does change, and if it's the victim is a male, we want them to come forward just as much as if it's a female. And all scenarios, the police go in, they don't really know too much about the family. There's no bias. They conduct a thorough investigation, and they determine who would be the primary aggressor. And the primary aggressor is the one who may be the bigger one, or the one who's maybe done the worst damage, but it's basically the person who has maybe the one would be going to court for criminal charges.
Abusing the other? How do you determine that?
Yeah, and it's really tough sometimes. Sometimes they're both aggressive, and we've had to separate them because they're quite violent and somebody else is called. And there are times where both get arrested and they both go to court, because we can determine who's the primary or secondary aggressor, and that's for the court to decide. And doing the whole investigation, that's what we do, is we put forward everything that we have, and the courts can sometimes decide on that. But 9 out of 10 times we are able to determine who is the primary aggressor and who is the one who's going to court if it goes to that point. And I give guidance to those officers when I was on the road. But yeah, part of the process is if you were involved at any point in an investigation, we could be called to go to court. So even if we've taken victim services or victim statements or offender statements or done the arrest or transport, Crown could call us to go to court and testify as to what we've done. So it's very important that we document everything that we've seen at the scene, so that we can give those notes to the Crown, so that they can determine whether or not we are needed to court, and a lot of times we are, unfortunately. I think helping people. When you hear that because of your intervention that somebody's life has been affected and they've changed, or they've gone through a rough period of time, because we get called most times when they're having a difficult time in their life, and if it's because something that I've done or one of my partners or as a team, and they've benefited from that, that's the most rewarding. There's no price that you can put on that. I joined the domestic violence unit last May, and I started going to the community meetings and learning about all what's out there. Dr. Balbier, she's running the head of the Never, and she is very, very proactive in regards to advertising domestic violence and trying to get the community to change their way of thinking, to report domestic violence, to say, you know what, this is not right, and to get it out there. And what she's done, and as a team, and I say it more with her because she's the one who's a lot of the instigation. We've got different, like MCF team and the ministry, the Women's Center, we have our victim services. So we have a lot of different community members that get together, and we learn what each other does. And so that if we need somebody who's in the community that might help us with a domestic violence file, we know who to contact or where that source is, or maybe even educate so that the community can help reduce domestic violence, increase the calls, but reduce the violence itself. So learning about what other community members do is quite important, and liaising with them as to how to prevent violence and make people safer. I think that's great. So I think this is an awesome program, and it seems to be growing, and we've got a lot of interesting dynamics in there because we're doing this play in April, so it's going to be interesting. But yeah, no, it's brought a lot of information out, and that's exactly what we need.